Hello and welcome to this episode of Inside View. My name is Cory Burnell and I'll be your host. And we have a special episode for us today in that we have 3 guests rather than our typical one. And it's exciting in that all 3 of our guests sit on the Angels Camp City Council. Our guests are Melissa Eads and Amanda Folendorf and Joe Oliveira. So thank you, the 3 of you, for joining us. We're going to go through some questions about what's going on with the city, what's going on with economic development and the things that you are all working on at the City Council. But first, let's introduce the 3 of you with a little bit of information about each of you. For example, Melissa, how long have you been on the City Council and other roles perhaps in public service? Then we'll go to Amanda and Joe.
Sure. My name's Melissa, and I'm actually the city administrator for the City of Angels Camp. I've been in this position for just a year now.
Great. Okay. Thank you for correcting me about your role there.
Not a worry. Thank you.
And I'm Amanda Folendorf, and I just started my 2nd term on the City Council. So I've been on the City Council for the last 4 years and was reelected in November.
Okay. And Amanda, you're also serving in the role of mayor?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
And Joe?
Joe Oliveira. I took an appointment to the council in June of 17, so I've been serving since then and will fill out the remainder of a council person that resigned.
Okay.
And so I'll be on through the end of 2020.
Okay, and then are the city council elections in May or June of 21? Then would that be when you, if you were to run?
November of 20.
They'll be in November of 20. Okay, and then the term will finish out at the end of the year.
Yep.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, I hope you're enjoying it so far.
Plenty of work.
Yeah, right.
Pay is low, but it's plenty of work.
Right, yeah. Lots of roles like that. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of let's talk about the vision that you have for the city, and as the council and then currently as the administrator, the things that you envision for the City of Angels Camp really to achieve and become. What can you present for our viewers a little bit about your ideas and thoughts there?
Sure. One of the things that I'm working on as the city administrator is establishing a sound fiscal policy for the City of Angels. And one of the things that we've done to achieve that is we're working with the City Council, we're identifying budget principles, we're identifying reserve policies, and we're putting into place the practices that'll help us achieve that goal over the next 5 years. The other thing that we've been working on in the last year was securing a local sales tax, which was really exciting for us and is helping us achieve that financial security and sustainability that we desperately need as a small rural community. The other thing that's top on my list as a city administrator is infrastructure and prioritizing those infrastructure projects and looking for sustainable funding to make those happen as well. So those are just a few of the highlights, pretty big milestones to accomplish and work towards in a 5-year period. Yeah.
Right. And then are there things that Amanda and Joe, are there things you see that you discuss on the City Council that you'd like the city to, direction that you'd like the city to head?
Well, I think Melissa's on track, and one of the first things she did was bring in a consultant. It wasn't necessarily popular across the board, but it did give us a standing picture of the condition of the city with respect to finance and infrastructure and organization. And that set in place for us a really good roadmap to proceed with. You could look at it historically and say one by one this happened in certain years and put us on a slide, but this consultant's report got to action items in addition to just pointing out where things went awry, and so that sets the stage for us to have some good action items going forward.
Amanda, anything you want to add?
And it really just helped the council put a focus on what our priorities are, what our goals are. Through that consultant, we were able to come up with 6 priorities that the council is focused on to really help gear us where we need to be and the expectations, holding not only ourselves but city staff accountable with where we need to go with the strategic plan that Melissa just mentioned with that 5-year goal projection. So I think it all comes together.
Well, Joe, with what you were sharing there about the consultant kind of helping everyone identify where the city was currently at, it reminded me of the old adage that a map isn't useful if you don't know where you're at on it, right? So you kind of get figured out what the current status is, and then how you can proceed from there. So, Melissa, you mentioned an increased sales tax. Let's talk a little bit about the finances of the city and the reason that would be necessary for our viewers who might be upset about paying it. But they do want the city services. So,
they do, yes.
Yeah.
So that's our goal, support and sustain city services at the acceptable levels that the community has come to appreciate and expect. And so small rural communities are challenged with these issues across the state, probably across the country. And for us specifically, we are challenged with rising pension costs, unfunded liability, and we're really not alone. But as a small community with limited growth over the past few years, it gets harder and harder for us to adapt and keep pace. So the sales tax, I think, is going to afford us some breathing room to put together a really sound financial strategy. And then our hope is to prioritize investments so that our public investments can be attractors for the private business sector. And that's really our goal. With the sales tax, we will be supporting services like police, fire, City Hall, our museum, public works. Those are areas of the general fund where our sales tax will go. We have estimated potentially a high of about $520,000 could be the benefit in added sales tax. That just depends on continued economic growth. But conservatively, we are budgeting for next year about $465,000 in added sales tax to the city. So that might not sound a lot to a bigger jurisdiction, but our general fund budget is about $4 million. So that's a decent amount to help us sustain services over a period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Better than 10%.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Now, you also mentioned priorities with regard to infrastructure, and so can we talk a little bit about when people think of infrastructure, maybe roads, bridges, they may think of water pipes, is it hospitals, schools, that type of thing? What does the City Council identify as infrastructure that the city needs to either update or add?
Oh, absolutely. You named a few of them. So sidewalks, curbs, gutters, roads, maintenance of roads, water, sewer. So we need to be ready when business comes our way and they're interested in investing in the City of Angels, and we need to have the capacity to provide them with the water and sewer services that they need. And then we need to have the transportation improvements that support their level of development. If we don't have those things, then it becomes an obstacle for anyone to choose Angels Camp as a place to grow their business. So that's an area that we're looking forward to focusing on. We've been partnering with Caltrans, and for a small rural city, we have a transportation capital improvement program of $2.8 million right now. We're working on 3 major projects. One of them being the Murphy's Grade Road project, which is bike and pedestrian improvements at the intersection of 49 down Murphy's Grade Road. It'll have connectivity with the school and the neighborhoods, which is a nice amenity. And then we're working on bike lanes and sidewalks down State Route 49. And we have active transportation funding, 1.8 in additional construction dollars coming our way to achieve that. So I think that those are exciting numbers for us as a small rural community. And those level of infrastructure and construction improvements bring economic development opportunity to our community, where we have contractors who are doing the work and hopefully staying in our hotels or hopefully local. And last but not least, I almost forgot, but in terms of a big economic development generator, we have our Angels Creek Trail plan, which is a multimodal trail that goes along the creek and hopefully will extend out to Maloney's someday, which we think would be a great attractor, not just for locals, but visitors to our area. So those are some realities that we're working on now, and then also some dreams in the future that we hope to prioritize. And then water and sewer is a big priority for us, because we need to have the capacity for these projects to plug into our existing infrastructure. We need to have that infrastructure maintained and with the availability for them to grow with us.
So, yeah, let's talk about that Highway 49 project. Is that, as far as pedestrian traffic, does that get us from kind of the newer developments in Angels to the historic downtown? Is that where there would be development for
That would
pedestrian
be the
traffic?
goal, absolutely.
Okay.
And we are working on, we have gaps along 49. We stop just about the Catholic Church on 49 in Angels Camp is where our project ends for now. But we're writing grant applications to extend beyond that and include the shoulders along Utica Park
Right.
and down into our historic downtown. For the city, our project success is dependent upon leveraging state and federal dollars. So a lot of times it's making our priorities also state and federal priorities. And that's the goal. We're trying to tailor those projects so we can help Caltrans or FHWA meet those objectives. A lot of them right now are air quality and multimodal transportation. And so that's why there's an availability of these types of funds.
Okay, very interesting. Now, it sounds to me like the development along Angels Creek, that's really a long-term objective. It's not something patrons or citizens will see in the very near future, is that correct?
Well, I hope that they get to see the planning
Okay.
stages of that. We do
Okay.
have some funding for environmental and design, and we will be hopefully rolling out some conceptual designs with the community to get their input. And then longer term will be the construction dollars to achieve that objective.
Yeah, it's interesting that project is interesting to me from the standpoint of making Angels Camp a destination where people will come up from the valley to. Is that some of the discussion that's going on the council about?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And when you look at our logo and when they rebranded Angels Camp, it's base camp of the Sierra Nevadas. It's to make it, Angels is the key component to allow that tourism opportunity to start there and branch out into the rest of Calaveras County and up and down the Highway 4 corridor. So
That's right. It really is a gateway into the foothills in the Sierra country. I mean, you've got, on to Bear Valley and skiing, and of course the wine country that Calaveras County has been developing. So, very impressive ideas. Very good. Have you seen real-world examples or actual hindrances to business due to lack of infrastructure, where you've maybe lost a business coming into town because for some reason we couldn't get something done that they needed? Have you seen that happen over the years?
I feel like, while I can't name any specifics, I feel like we've definitely had interest, and because of our lack of availability, they quickly move on.
Sure.
And we do have some development projects where the success of those projects are contingent upon us moving forward with some infrastructure improvements. And so that definitely is the case for us. We're working on a number of transportation improvements that are centered around the 449 intersection, for example. We have a corridor that we think would be prime for some commercial development and expanded mixed-use commercial development. But it's contingent upon the infrastructure for transportation and water and sewer. So the City Council has prioritized the planning. We've completed a gateway corridor study in that area. Caltrans has moved forward with a project initiation document for that corridor, and then they just authorized a specific plan for that area so that we can coordinate the water and sewer improvements that are necessary for development. So I feel like when we began to signal those steps forward to invest in our infrastructure in those areas, the interest for development in those areas goes up.
Very good point, because I imagine a business shopping as to where they're going to put a location. They're entertaining multiple destinations, and the minute that they can cross Angels Camp off for any particular reason, you don't end up on the short list, right? So that makes perfectly good sense that they'll move on pretty quickly if you don't already have those things there, because some other destination does that they're entertaining. I read something recently about perhaps a Tractor Supply Co. coming up into Angels Camp. Is that a done deal? Is that happening? You hear things and you wonder.
yeah, I think construction stopped right now due to the weather.
Okay.
But they are going ahead
Okay.
with that.
We hope, I'm sorry, August.
Yeah.
August, okay.
Yeah, you pass by, you can see the walls beginning to go up now, so.
It shows you how long it's been since I've come through town, right? I'm in Valley Springs, but it was reminiscent to me when I heard about that of how Valley Springs recently had O'Reilly's and AutoZone and Dollar General go in, and obviously it's changed the face of the town a little bit, but it does save you a lot on gas when it comes to going and getting those things, right? Or saves you a trip to Amazon.com anyway, or O'Reilly's.com. Yeah, so it sounds to me like business development is a high priority for the council and for your administration.
Absolutely.
Do you want to discuss that a little bit further as to, we've talked a little bit about infrastructure, we've talked about the financial picture for the city and how the increased sales tax can benefit. Let's talk a little bit more about your thoughts on business development and what Angels Camp's doing in that regard. I'm sure you're coordinating with other organizations like Destination Angels Camp as your branding, the Visitor Center. Talk
Absolutely.
about that.
So we do have a partnership with Destination Angels Camp, and that's one of the areas that they're working with us. One of the goals that we have working with them next year is sort of public information and outreach for the city and helping us tell the story collectively about the city that makes us so unique. You know, we have really quality schools, we have a quaint historic district, we have parks, we are 3 miles long, a walkable, sustainable community, and we have the potential to be vibrant and attractive, I think, to a next generation of families that are looking for a location to live and work. So that's one of the components that we want to start communicating. And I think businesses also are looking out for their employees and what's available for them within the communities that they're choosing to look for. So I think that Destination Angels Camp is going to begin to help us focus in that area. We also have a partnership with the Visitors Bureau, and tourism is a huge component of our budget, the $1 million component of our $4 million general fund. Wow. So that's a substantial amount. So we're always looking for strategies that really enhance business development around our tourism economy as well.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And then, let's see, there was a new housing development going into Angels Camp too, DeNova?
We do.
Is that how far along are we with that?
I think they just took out the last of their permits.
Okay.
55 homes, as I understand it. So we're looking for a little boost in property tax as a result of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what their occupancy is at the moment, but they're nearing the end of construction up there with the 55 homes. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. And where's that located in relation to the downtown area?
You familiar with Greenhorn Creek?
Yeah, sure.
It's a next door neighbor to Greenhorn
there
Creek,
you go.
right up the
Okay.
hill from Camp's Restaurant.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and that's just one more reason. I know that it's Wyndham there, right? That's
Right.
the timeshare developer there at Greenhorn Creek. And I know it brings people in from all over the state and the country. I've run into people at Greenhorn that find out about Angels Camp as a result of that. Now, you mentioned about an increase potentially in the transit occupancy tax, TOT, for the city. And so you want to explain to our viewers how what happens for the city of Angels differs than what they recently voted on for the county of Calaveras?
Sure. So the County of Calaveras historically has been about a 6% TOT. We are our own incorporated jurisdiction, so we collect TOT on our own behalf. Our rate has been at 10% for a number of years. So when the county moved forward with their increase, we chose instead to focus on attaining a successful sales tax measure and make that our priority focus. So now that the county has been successful in reaching 12, we plan to take to the voters in November a similar measure that mirrors their essential service with a 2% increase to our TOT as an incorporated city. So if you're in the city limits and you own a hotel, you're not paying the county's 12%, you're paying the city's 10%. And that goes directly to the city in our general fund.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it will mean an additional $200,000.
Okay. And the nice thing about it is that it's generally paid from people outside of your city or our county, right? So we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's generally a pass-through for the hotel, so.
Yeah. And as I understand the county measure, the 12% was really just getting competitive with other communities, right? They were already pretty much there. Do you have any idea what other community TOT rates are?
Sure. When we had initially explored it early on at a similar time that the county was, 10% seemed to be the rate for like jurisdictions. So the county, I think, was sort of leading the way for areas like ours at 12%, but many jumped on board with them. So Mariposa, I believe, was right along with them. I'm not quite sure that Tuolumne County moved to 12%, but I think a number of jurisdictions at the same time or shortly thereafter are making the same move.
Yeah. Yeah, and if certainly when the county was at 6, that was part of the argument for the vote for the increase, was that it was well behind other jurisdictions. Now, in regard to economic development, the county has what the workforce initiative, if I'm remembering the name of it correctly, Workforce Development Initiative. And so I know that Superintendent Mike Chimenti has been a proponent of, career and technical education and the idea of developing workforce that can benefit our local community and that people can have valuable jobs without having to leave. Is there much discussion there among the city council or the administration as to cooperating in that vein, or do you see it from an economic development standpoint as important that these workforce development initiatives that the county is doing be, I guess, supported or applied alongside by the City of Angels?
Absolutely. I think that is a priority and something that the City Council supports. Unfortunately, I haven't identified any objectives in the short term to bring to the council any policies related to that, but I think that in terms of philosophy, attracting and retaining and growing employees and making sure that students and kids that grow up in our communities stay in our communities and have quality jobs to return home from college and take within the communities that they grew up in. So I think as a philosophy that's definitely supported, possibly an area that we can continue to work with Destination Angels Camp to really enhance or complement the county's effort.
I imagine that you have your finger on the pulse pretty closely as far as economic growth or contraction here in the county, kind of the health of it. Each year you really see things either come and go. What's your overall sentiment that the three of you have about the economic environment, Angels Camp, and how we're doing?
I think we're on the right track. Downtown, we've had 3, and I think a 4th coming in here in the next year of small business. So you're really starting to see those smaller mom and pop start coming into the downtown area, which has been really great and amazing to see. And I think that's a trend that you're starting to see across the county as well. For example, San Andreas has also had a couple new makeovers as well in their downtown area, and I think we're all collectively on the right track to see that. And I think now the next step is making sure that we retain those businesses and we support them to make sure that they thrive in those respective areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there were a number of vacancies in historic downtown for a number of years. How are we doing there now?
And
we have 4 new businesses that are coming in. We just had one open last month, so that's really exciting. I think that we have some energy coming to the downtown. We have the Tractor Supply, we have the hospital project. The City of Angels has over 400 business licenses that we process every year. So we are a regional hub, I think, for business within the county. And I think that our historic downtown is finally getting the attention that it needs. Yeah, it's exciting.
We make a point to go to the movie theater there rather than anywhere else. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like a large home theater. It's so quaint and cozy, and you usually run into friends there too. So.
Right.
Now the transportation project at Highway 4 and 49, I read something about that being kind of a turn? Is it going to be a turn lane there at the northwest corner? Is that what we're talking about? So traffic can flow easily from 49 onto 4 when going south?
So what we're looking to do is extend the Foundry Lane connection. And currently, we have a controlled access highway agreement with Caltrans that limits access from the state highway to those parcels that are vacant within the city limits. So what we're doing is working with Caltrans to master plan that area, to analyze the traffic impacts of any development that would be coming there, and then to plan the necessary transportation improvements to accommodate that growth. And our goal is to get a break in access on that state highway and have what we call the Foundry Lane extension, which would go from Highway 4 and tie into the north on Highway 49. And then that would become a local road that we can develop local projects and local priorities and have control of that infrastructure.
So it's an entirely new bypass rather than just a development there at the intersection. Am I
Our hope is
understanding
not
that
that
correct?
it serves as a bypass,
Okay.
but it could have the visual perception of a bypass, and our hope would be that it serves as a local road. And that we have some mixed use, some commercial development, and as you
Right.
progress throughout Foundry Lane towards north on 49, then it becomes residential developments.
I
We
see.
we have developments that are looking at both ends of that connector road. On the north end, we have Habitat for Humanity, who has put in an application for an 87-unit housing development. And then on the south side of that connector, we have some commercial development interests that we're hoping to take advantage of as well.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic opportunity because then you really open up all that area back there for additional development.
It does.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we're just about out of time. I want to give you an opportunity to touch on any topic that we maybe haven't covered yet, or announce any events perhaps that you want voters to come out to, so announcements you might have.
I would just say
Yeah.
keep an eye on the city. We have a lot of things going.
Yeah.
We're planning for our future. We need the citizens to be a part of that. Keep an eye on the TOT because we hope that that is a successful initiative within our community. And then also we'll be talking about water and sewer rates. So there might be an opportunity where we can come back and talk about those as well.
Absolutely. Now, on the city's website, is there an opportunity for our viewers to sign up for a newsletter that might go out, or is there maybe an announcements page that they
So
can
that
follow
would be a
along
great
with
idea.
there?
So that's maybe a future partnership with Destination Angels.
Hey,
Camp.
I'm not
Is
going to
that-
volunteer
is
for
that
that work, okay, Melissa? I'm busy.
So that's something that we could definitely work on. It would be a great tool to communicate with the public. Absolutely.
Sure. But of course, your website is that tool too,
Yes.
so they can Google the City of Angels and find you there. So Melissa and Amanda and Joe, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy evenings and day to come visit with us and share this information with our viewers. And thank you to our viewers for watching another episode of Inside View. And please find us on YouTube online and share this episode with anyone you'd like to have see it. All right, see you next time.